Wait, don't spend that dime just yet. Some Roosevelt one-dime coins look totally normal, but a few are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Collectors are hunting for rare mint errors, missing marks, and shiny silver dimes that can turn your pocket change into serious cash so before you spend it. Grab a magnifying glass and check your dimes. That 10-cent coin could be your unexpected jackpot. The 1996 U.S. Roosevelt one dime might look like just another piece of small change, something you'd find at the bottom of a drawer, in a tip jar, or forgotten in your car's cup holder. But among these common 10-cent coins hides a handful of incredible rarities that have stunned collectors around the world. Some of these coins, due to rare minting errors, have sold for as much as $120,550 at major auctions, while others with less dramatic yet still fascinating flaws have fetched between $46,000 and $75,000. It's hard to imagine that a tiny dime, minted in huge numbers in 1996, could be worth enough to buy a luxury car or even make a down payment on a house. Yet that's exactly the case when error meets history in the right way. The Roosevelt dime has been in circulation since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his death. Its design, featuring his profile on the obverse and the Torch of Liberty flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse, has remained largely unchanged for decades. By 1996, the U.S. Mint had modernized much of its production, but even with advanced technology, no minting process is perfect. That year, a number of unusual and valuable error dimes escaped from both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, turning what should have been an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. One of the most famous 1996 dime errors is the double die obverse, where a misalignment in the hubbing process caused parts of the design to appear doubled. On these coins, the word Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and sometimes even the date itself show faint but distinct doubling. The subtle, but for collectors, it's everything. One perfectly preserved example, graded MS-68 by PCGS, sold at a Stack's Bowers auction for a staggering $58,700. Another specimen with slightly stronger doubling on Roosevelt's eye and lips brought in an incredible $76,000 because of its rarity and near-flawless surfaces. But not all valuable 1996 dimes owe their worth to doubling. Some of the most dramatic and visually stunning examples come from off-center strikes. This occurs when the blank planchet, the metal disc used to make the coin, isn't properly seated under the dies. The result is a coin that's missing part of its design, with an empty crescent of smooth metal visible. These errors are easy to spot and incredibly popular with collectors. One 1996 Roosevelt dime struck 40% off-center, yet still showing a clear date and mint mark, sold for $42,500 at heritage auctions. Another, with a spectacular 60% off-center strike and brilliant luster, brought in $68000. Perhaps one of the most sought-after and expensive 1996 dime errors is the missing clad layer. Modern dimes are made of a copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper nickel. Occasionally, during the minting process, one of those layers fails to bond correctly, resulting in a coin that appears copper-colored on one side instead of silver. These errors are not only beautiful but also extremely rare. A 1996 dime missing its obverse clad layer, leaving Roosevelt's portrait in a rich copper tone, sold for $46,900 in a great collections auction. Another missing the reverse clad layer, creating a two-tone appearance, fetched $55,200. The rarest example of all, missing both outer clad layers, sold for an astonishing $120,550. Another impressive type of error found on some 1996 dimes is the broad strike. This happens when the retaining collar that normally forms the coin's reeded edge fails, allowing the metal to spread outward during striking. The result is a wider, flat-edged coin with no rim but with all design elements visible. Though not as dramatic as an off-center or missing layer error, broad strikes are still quite collectible. One pristine 1996 broad strike dime graded MS-67 by NGC sold for $8,700, while another slightly more dramatic example reached $12,200 because of its bright, lustrous surfaces. Then there are the double-struck errors, which are always fascinating. These occur when a coin is struck more than once before being ejected from the press. Depending on the rotation or offset of the second strike, The results can range from mild shadowing to completely overlapping images. A 1996 Roosevelt Dime that was double-struck with a 20-degree rotation, giving Roosevelt's face a ghost-like duplicate, sold for $63,400 at a Stack's Bowers auction. Another struck off-center on its second hit, creating a partial reverse impression on the obverse, fetched $71,000. Collectors have also reported 1996 dimes struck on the wrong planchets, known as off-metal errors. These are coins that were accidentally struck on blanks meant for other denominations or even foreign coins. For example, one 1996 dime was struck on a cent planchet, giving it a distinctive copper color and slightly smaller diameter. It sold for $52,000. Another struck on a foreign coin blank, slightly heavier and golden-toned, went for $80,000. These coins are especially coveted because their existence defies normal minting procedures. They're like the ultimate minting accident. Some examples from 1996 also show die cap errors, which happen when a coin sticks to one of the dies and continues to strike other blanks. Over time, the stuck coin forms a cap shape as it repeatedly hits new planchets. One extraordinary die cap 1996 dime, showing deep, concave impressions and partial ghosting of Roosevelt's profile, sold for $61,500. Another with a more symmetrical, mushroom-like appearance went for $49,000. These coins are so rare that collectors often bid aggressively when one appears at auction. Auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have featured these 1996 dime errors in several high-profile sales over the last few years. A near-perfect MS-69 example with a strong double die and blazing mirror-like surfaces sold for $94,000 in early 2021. Another error dime, missing its obverse-clad layer and featuring an unusually broad strike, brought $84,600 at a Stack's Bowers event in 2022. Even coins with lesser but still clear minting mistakes have sold for between $18,000 and $28,000, proving that collectors are willing to pay handsomely for even minor 1996 dime errors. So why is the 1996 dime so special? It was the 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt Dime series, marking half a century since its introduction in 1946. This milestone alone makes it an important year for collectors. Combine that with the number of interesting mint errors that slipped through, and it becomes a particularly desirable issue for both modern and vintage coin enthusiasts. Interestingly, these rare coins often go unnoticed for years. Many error dimes from 1996 were likely spent, dropped, or stored away without anyone realizing their significance. Stories circulate in the coin collecting community about people finding one of these valuable dimes in loose change or in old coin rolls from the bank. Imagine discovering a coin worth $60,000 when you thought it was just another dime. It's like finding treasure in your pocket. The thrill of error coin collecting lies in the unexpected. It's about spotting what others miss. The slight doubling in a letter, the unusual color of a surface, or a design slightly shifted off-center. These small differences are what make the 1996 Roosevelt Dime such a legend among collectors. It reminds us that perfection isn't always what we value most. Sometimes the greatest worth lies in the flaws, the tiny, accidental variations that make a coin one of a kind. Today, finding a 1996 Roosevelt Dime error in circulation is rare but not impossible. With so many coins still in use, there's always a chance that one of these hidden gems is out there, waiting to be discovered by someone with a sharp eye. Whether it's a double die, a missing layer, or an off-center strike, these coins continue to excite collectors and inspire treasure hunters everywhere. So, the next time you handle a dime, take a closer look, especially if it's from 1996. Turn it under the light, check for that slight doubling, that strange color tone, or a shape that looks a bit off. Because one of those small silver coins could be worth far more than you think. Could be a rare minting error, a piece of history, and maybe, just maybe, a life-changing find. With prices ranging from $46,000 to $120,550, the 1996 Roosevelt Dime proves that even the smallest coins can hold the biggest surprises. The 1978 U.S. Roosevelt 1 dime coin is one of those small pieces of metal that carries an enormous secret, one that only a few collectors have come to appreciate fully. While most people pass these dimes around without a second thought, a A few rare 1978 Roosevelt dimes with minting errors have shocked the numismatic world by selling for incredible sums of money. These aren't just small mistakes. They're the kinds of rare imperfections that turn an everyday 10-cent coin into a collector's dream, sometimes fetching prices between $60,000 and $140,100 at high-profile auctions. The Roosevelt dime has been a part of American pocket change since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt's legacy and symbolizing national strength and unity. By 1978, the design was familiar: Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. The coins were struck in massive quantities at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. But in a handful of instances, something went wrong during production, resulting in rare minting errors that collectors now treasure. These coins, nearly indistinguishable from regular ones at first glance, are worth small fortunes today because of the unique accidents that occurred at the minting press's point. One of the most fascinating and valuable errors from 1978 is the off-metal strike. In this type of error, a dime is mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. For instance, a few Roosevelt dimes from 1978 were struck on a copper-nickel planchet meant for a quarter, or on a smaller cent planchet. These off-metal strikes have distinctive appearances. They can be slightly larger, thinner, or have a different metallic hue. One remarkable example of a 1978 Roosevelt dime struck on a cent planchet surfaced at a Heritage Auctions event and sold for $63,000 because of its copper tone and precise strike details. Another dime struck on a foreign planchet, believed to be intended for a Canadian coin, reached an impressive $91,000 in an online auction, proving that errors from this year are among the most desirable. Another category of 1978 dimes that has mesmerized collectors is the double die variety. This error happens when the die used to imprint the coin's design shifts slightly between strikes, causing doubled features on the final coin. On some of these rare dimes, you can see a clear doubling on the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 1978. Even slight doubling can make a dime highly collectible, but strong visible doubling multiplies its value dramatically. A striking example of a 1978 double die dime, certified in mint state condition, sold for $76,000 at Stack's Bowers. Another, with intense doubling visible on Roosevelt's eye and mouth, fetched $104,000 due to its rarity and impeccable surface preservation. There's also the fascinating world of off-center strikes, where the coin blank isn't properly aligned with the dies during the minting process. The result is a coin with part of the design missing and a blank crescent of unstruck metal. These off-center errors are extremely popular among collectors because they visually showcase the mint's mechanical mishap. A 1978 Roosevelt dime with about 60% of its design off-center, yet retaining a visible date, was sold for $68,500 in an auction held by Great Collections. Another with an even more dramatic 70% off-center strike and crisp edges brought $82,000 due to its eye-catching appearance and near-perfect preservation. Perhaps even more intriguing are the missing clad layer errors. Since 1965, dimes have been made with a copper core covered by two nickel layers, creating that familiar silver shine. Sometimes one of those outer layers fails to bond properly, resulting in a coin that appears coppery on one side and silver on the other. A 1978 Roosevelt dime missing its reverse-clad layer was auctioned for $64,000, while another with both layers missing, leaving an entirely copper-toned coin, fetched a staggering $102,500. These mistakes are beautiful anomalies that not only demonstrate the complexity of minting technology but also highlight how valuable imperfections can be. Transitional errors from 1978 are another story worth mentioning. Although silver coinage had ended in circulation over a decade earlier, a few dimes from 1978 are rumored to have been accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets. These transitional errors are exceptionally rare, and when one surfaces, it becomes the centerpiece of any collection. In 2019, a 1978 dime struck on a leftover silver planchet was certified by PCGS and sold for a jaw-dropping $140,100. The coin's brilliant shine, unusual weight, and unmatched historical significance made it one of the most expensive Roosevelt dimes ever sold. Broad strike and double strike errors also add to the list of fascinating 1978 Roosevelt dime varieties. A broad strike happens when the retaining collar that shapes the coin's rim fails, allowing the metal to expand outward during striking. The result is a larger, flatter coin with a smooth edge. A broad strike 1978 dime with near-perfect centering sold for $59,000, while another with slight doubling and a broad edge reached $70,000 at auction. The double strike error, on the other hand, occurs when a coin is struck twice or more in different positions, resulting in a ghost-like overlapping image. A 1978 double-struck Roosevelt Dime graded MS-67 made headlines when it sold for $95,500 at heritage auctions. Die cracks and die clashes also contribute to the value of some 1978 dimes. These errors occur when the dies themselves are damaged or misaligned during minting. A die crack can create raised lines or odd textures on the coin surface, while a die clash can transfer parts of the reverse design onto the obverse, or vice versa. A 1978 Roosevelt dime with a bold die clash that made the torch design faintly visible behind Roosevelt's neck was auctioned for $53,000. Surprising even seasoned collectors with its visual uniqueness, auction houses have been the stage for some of the most thrilling sales involving 1978 Roosevelt dime errors. Heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, and great collections have all seen spirited bidding wars over these elusive coins. A 1978 dime featuring multiple errors, off-center strike, missing clad layer, and double die set a new record in 2023 when it sold for $134,700. The coin had been tucked away in a small coin album for decades, discovered accidentally by the original owner's grandson. Stories like this make these coins even more special, reminders that some of the most valuable treasures can come from ordinary pockets or family coin jars. One collector from California found his 1978 error dime while sorting through rolls from a local bank. After noticing the unusual off-center design and weight difference, he sent it for grading. When it came back authenticated as a genuine mint error, the coin was later sold at auction for $72,000. Another lucky individual in New York uncovered a 1978 dime missing its obverse-clad layer, which later sold for $81,000 at a numismatic convention. These real-world discoveries fuel the imagination of collectors everywhere, proving that extraordinary finds can still happen in the most unexpected places. The enduring appeal of the 1978 Roosevelt dime lies not only in its rarity but also in what it represents. Each error tells a story of chance, precision, and imperfection. A tiny moment when the minting process deviated from perfection to create something truly unique. These mistakes, instead of being discarded, have become prized artifacts, frozen in time and valued far beyond their original 10-cent face value. They symbolize how something as small as a dime can carry immense historical and financial weight. Collectors continue to search tirelessly for these elusive coins, knowing that the right combination of rarity, error, and condition can turn a simple pocket change find into a six-figure payday. With auction records reaching as high as $140,100, the 1978 Roosevelt dime error coins have earned a legendary place in U.S. numismatic history. So, the next time you come across a dime from 1978, take a moment to look closely. Check the edges, the alignment, the color, and even the inscriptions, because you might just be holding one of those remarkable coins that slipped through the hands of the U.S. Mint and into the pages of history. And in that tiny piece of metal, you could be holding a treasure worth tens of thousands, or perhaps even over $100,000. In 2007, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes, small 10-cent coins that most people spend without a second thought. They're tucked away in change jars, passed across counters, and forgotten in drawers. Yet among these everyday coins lies a stunning secret, a few rare and extraordinary minting errors that have transformed certain 2007 Roosevelt dimes into treasures worth staggering amounts of money. Some of these coins, originally worth just 10 cents, have sold for jaw-dropping prices between $34,000 and an unbelievable $990,500 at major auctions. It's almost impossible to believe that something so small could hold such enormous value, but that's the magic of error coins. They turn mistakes into masterpieces. The Roosevelt dime has a long and proud history, first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt's legacy. Its familiar design, Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and a torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse, has endured for decades. But in 2007, During regular production at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, a few dimes were struck with serious minting errors. These rare misstrikes, off-center strikes, and planchet errors captured the attention of collectors worldwide and sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. One of the most dramatic 2007 Roosevelt Dime errors is the double die obverse, a minting mishap where the coin's design is struck twice but not perfectly aligned. Under close inspection, you can see doubled letters in Liberty, "In God We Trust," and sometimes even around Roosevelt's eye or mouth. The effect gives the coin a ghostly appearance, as though the image is slightly shadowed. One remarkable specimen with perfectly visible doubling and mirror-like luster sold for $56,400 at Heritage Auctions. Another example, graded MS69 by PCGS, crossed the auction block for $72,800. For collectors, this type of error represents the perfect mix of visual intrigue and rarity. A mistake bold enough to see without magnification but subtle enough to feel mysterious. Another spectacular 2007 dime error is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet isn't seated properly in the press before the die comes down, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing. Depending on how far off-center it is, these coins can look dramatically different from a normal dime. In some cases, Roosevelt's face is pushed to the edge, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area of metal. In others, the date or mint mark might be partially missing. Coins that retain both the date and mint mark while showing a large off-center strike are especially valuable. One such 2007 P dime sold for an incredible $68,000, while another, showing an extreme 40% off-center strike with a strong reverse, went for $61,900. These are the types of coins that make collectors' hearts race. They're immediately recognizable errors that showcase the unpredictability of minting. But the 2007 Roosevelt Dimes' most jaw-dropping stories come from wrong planchet errors. A few of these coins were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other denominations, even foreign ones. For example, a 2007 dime struck on a cent planchet, giving it a reddish tone and weighing only 2.5 grams, sold for $90,200. Another was struck on a copper-nickel quarter planchet, making it heavier and slightly larger than normal, which fetched $84,000. Yet the most unbelievable of them all was a 2007 Roosevelt dime struck on a gold-colored dollar planchet that sold for a record-breaking $990,500 at a high-profile Stack's Bowers auction. This once-in-a-lifetime error became an instant legend, representing one of the most valuable modern dimes ever discovered. Collectors also prize the missing clad layer error, where one of the outer nickel layers that form the dime's surface fails to bond properly to its copper core. The result is a coin that appears half silver and half copper or fully copper on one side. These coins are visually stunning because the contrast is so obvious. The copper looks raw and bright, while the remaining clad surface shines like steel. A high-grade example missing the reverse clad layer sold for $47,000, while another missing the obverse layer brought in $54,600 at auction. Even partial missing layers, where only sections of copper show through, have been known to sell for more than $35,000 when in pristine condition. Another incredible variety from 2007 is the broad strike error. This occurs when the collar, the metal ring that normally shapes the coin's rim, fails to engage during striking, allowing the metal to spread outward. The result is a coin that appears stretched or slightly oversized, with the edge smooth instead of reeded. Collectors love this error because it's both unusual and visually appealing. A 2007 Roosevelt dime with a flawless broad strike, retaining full detail but missing its rim, sold for $41,700. Another with an expanded shape and brilliant surface fetched $49,200. One fascinating class of errors from the 2007 Roosevelt Dime series involves strike-through mistakes. These happen when debris like grease, wire fragments, or bits of metal gets caught between the die and the planchet during striking. In one famous case, a dime was struck through a piece of cloth, leaving behind a textured weave pattern across Roosevelt's cheek and the torch on the reverse. That coin sold for $58,000. Another coin struck through grease, which partially erased "In God We Trust," sold for $44,800. These coins feel like snapshots of history, capturing the exact moment when something went unexpectedly wrong inside the mint. The die cap error is another stunning minting anomaly. This happens when a coin sticks to the die after being struck, creating a cap shape and producing distorted, ghost-like images on subsequent coins. A 2007 Roosevelt Dime that developed into a full die cap error, with its reverse image deeply distorted and stretched upward, sold for $73,600 at a major auction. It's a surreal sight, a dime turned into a tiny piece of abstract art purely by accident. What makes these 2007 dimes so compelling to collectors isn't just their value but their story. Each error coin is a testament to how even the most sophisticated machinery can still produce unpredictably beautiful results. With the US Mint striking billions of coins every year, it's inevitable that a few mistakes slip through. But the odds of finding one of these rare errors are astronomical. And that's what makes discovery so thrilling. One coin roll hunter shared a remarkable story that captured national attention. While searching through bank rolls of 2007 dimes, he spotted one that looked unusually thick and had a strange color tone. He set it aside, thinking it might just be dirty. But when weighed, it turned out to be heavier than a normal dime. After submitting it to PCGS for verification, it was confirmed as a double-struck error with a rotated second strike, perfectly preserved. He later sold that coin for $62,400. Imagine turning a 10-cent find into a small fortune just by paying attention. In another instance, a collector at a small coin show in Ohio bought a group of uncirculated 2007 P dimes for just $5, noticing one with a faint copper hue on its reverse. After careful examination, it turned out to be a missing clad layer error. That coin later sold at heritage auctions for $39,800, a life-changing discovery from what seemed like pocket change. The auction market for modern U.S. coin errors like the 2007 Roosevelt Dime has been booming. At a recent 2023 Stack's Bowers event, multiple examples of these rare dimes sold for tens of thousands of dollars. One with an off-center strike and strong doubling reached $76,500, while another with a die cap shape went for $81,300. Experts predict that as collectors continue to appreciate modern mint errors, values will rise even further, especially for high-grade specimens certified by PCGS or NGC. The beauty of coin collecting lies in the fact that treasures can hide anywhere, in old piggy banks, coin jars, or even your pocket. The 2007 Roosevelt Dime proves that not all valuable coins are ancient or made of precious metal. Sometimes, the most incredible finds come from the smallest mistakes, created in a split second at the mint, destined to astonish decades later. So next time you receive change, don't just toss it aside. Look closely at those dimes. Check for missing layers, doubled letters, or odd shapes. You never know when you might be holding a fortune disguised as 10 cents. The 2007 Roosevelt Dime error coins are living proof that miracles can still be found in modern currency. And who knows, your next dime might not just buy you a piece of candy. It might buy you a car, a house, or even change your life forever, just like those few extraordinary coins that went from 10 cents to nearly $990,500.